Have you ever made a stirred cocktail that hasn't turned out quite right? Perhaps it's been a little bit too boozy or it's a little bit watery. I'm going to share a quick experiment that you can undertake. It's very quick and easy, and then from there on out, you'll be able to make perfectly stirred, consistently chilled, ideally diluted stirred drinks. This experiment was originally featured in Liquid Intelligence by Dave Arnold. He also shared his fundamental law of cocktails, which states there is no chilling without dilution and there is no dilution without chilling. They are inextricably linked. You might prefer your Manhattans at a different temperature to me, but I usually like my Manhattans between -1 and -2 degrees Celsius. So for today's experiment, I'm gonna go smack bang in the middle and stir it down to -1.5, which is 29.3 degrees Fahrenheit. After doing this experiment, you're going to know exactly how many rotations it will take to dilute your drink and chill it to the right temperature. Now, of course, with stirring a cocktail, there comes a few variables. The speed at which you stir your cocktail, the size of the ice that you use, and the temperature of your glassware. Start with a frozen mixing glass. Reason being is you don't want to have a warm mixing glass that is going to warm up the ice and add additional dilution into the drink. I want to try and remove some of these variables with the experiment. Now, I'm using the Manhattan as an example. Of course, you can use different cocktails to run this experiment, completely up to you. We're going to start with 2 ounces, 60 ml of Rittenhouse rye. Now this experiment, you'll discover your ideal stirring time and number of rotations to make the ideal Manhattan. 1 ounce, 30 ml of sweet vermouth, Koki di Torino. 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. I'm using a dasher bottle, a Japanese style dash bottle, so I'll triple that. And then I want to add ice into the mixing glass to cover the level of the liquid. The ice I'm using is 1 inch, so 25 millimeters. Ideal ice size is 1 inch to 1¼ inch. So I'm going to count the number of rotations and measure the time. And then straight into a chilled cook. I'll just double check the temperature of the drink. Hopefully your thermometer probe is a little bit better than mine. There's a little bit of a delay on the temp. So I've got -2 degrees, which is slightly colder than I was aiming for, but it's still within that range of -1 to -2 of how I like Manhattans to be served. Keep in mind, if I go to a bar, I don't expect people to serve me a -2 degree Manhattan, but it's just a way for me to undertake an experiment to use as a guide to then move forward and make drinks. The wash line looks a tiny bit low, pretty close. Good temperature, good aromatics. If you make it any colder, the aromatics are going to be muted. If you make it warmer, it's going to be a little bit hot, I think. So -1 to -2 degrees is perfect. But with that -2 degree temperature of the drink, it took me 22 seconds, roughly around 70 revolutions. To be honest, I lost track a little bit. I missed a few, but I'll put the number of rotations on the screen. But 22 seconds of stirring at that fairly brisk pace for me will make the ideal Manhattan. Now, if I'm going to go on and make other drinks, something that's lower ABV, I'd definitely stir less, probably closer to between 15 and 20 seconds. Something that's served over ice. You think a old fashioned or a Negroni, I'd definitely stir those less. If you're using a higher proof whiskey, you may want to stir a little bit longer, maybe not, depending on what you prefer to get out of that drink. But I highly recommend undertaking this experiment so you can understand how to make your perfect stirred drink with the ideal dilution and the perfect temperature. So I've featured this experiment in my cocktail book, Steve the Bartender's Cocktail Guide, as well as my fundamentals workshop. I've got more workshops coming up, so if you're interested in those, check out the link in the description, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.